Right now, I'm challenging myself to see if I can make 128 Regulation H teams that are each different from one another over the course of 128 days. Why 128, you might ask? At the end of the 128 days, we're going to do something special where we battle every team against each other in a single elimination bracket to see which team emerges on top. There will be some competitively strong teams, there will be some gimmick teams, and there will be some probably a good number of goofs and gaffs in there, so if you want to follow through to the end, subscribe so that you can keep up with each day. But without further ado, let's move on to day 7. Alright everybody, welcome back to another video, and today we have the very first form of a Mausape team on the 128 day challenge, and you can expect that there's probably going to be a good number of Mausape teams thrown in here whenever I'm not quite sure what to do for the day, and this is one of those days. But this is a bit of a unique Mausape team because we have the Mudsdale, which also works in combination with the Mousehold and kind of wants to take Annihilape's place is the storyline that we're running with here. But let's go to the start to start off with Altaria here. Altaria is a really good Pokemon since Rain is very popular right now, and our team doesn't benefit from Rain being up in any sort of way, really. So we're going to be using the Cloud 9 ability in order to negate all forms of weather, which means that the snow teams will not be able to set Aurora Veil consistently or have their blizzards be 100% accurate. Rain teams with Pelipper, who's very popular. Pelipper does not get to use the Water Weather Ball, and only uses the 50 base power normal Weather Ball whenever Altaria is on the field. Also, all the Swift Swim users will be noticeably slower. The Sun teams with like Lilycole, for example. Lilligant's going to be slower, but I think it's still pretty much faster than most things on this team except for Mousehold. But it makes Lilycole easier to deal with because Torkoal does not have its Sun for the eruptions. And lastly, Sand is the least impacted because it only increases the special defense of rock types, and there's like Excadrill who gets faster in Sand, but most of those mons can deal with Altaria anyways in order to get Altaria off the field, so not much play there. But for the Altaria set, we have a mostly supportive set with the Tailwind in order to make our team faster, and the Will-O-Wisp in order to burn things to decrease the power of physical moves being used against us. And we also have the Breaking Swipe for spread attack dropping, and it's also stab, so it can do some notable chip damage. As well as we have the Safeguard in order to make sure that nothing on this team is getting put to sleep by Amoonguss or getting burned by Incineroar or anything like that. Unless we have the Covert Cloak just so we're not getting faked out. Next out we have our first friend on this team, Clefairy, and with a friend comes the friend Guard, which means that we take reduced damage with the Pokemon that's next to Clefairy on the field. And this Clefairy set is pretty general. I just put all of the bulk into special defense. And we have the Terra Grass in order to avoid Rage Powder or getting slept, and we can use the Sing in order to sleep opposing things like Amoonguss who are immune to Spore. Not that Clefairy gets Spore, it's just that Sing kind of has a nice little niche where it can put a lot of things to sleep that avoid being put to sleep by mostly just Amoonguss. And with the Life Dew, we can heal our team, and with Gastrodon's Storm Drain, we can give Gastrodon a special attack instead, as well as the Follow Me to redirect damage for Clefairy, and the Protect in case we need to keep Clefairy alive. And since we are not fully evolved Pokemon, we can use the Eviolite, which makes Clefairy much tankier. Next up, we have the Monkey, Annihilate. This is just a general Annihilate set. However, I took some of the attack out in order to make us a little bit speedier, which might help us in some Mausape mirrors down the road. But we've got the Drain Punch, we got the Rage Fist for both of our stabs, as well as the Bulk Up in order to increase our attack and defense, and the Protect for the turns that we need to save ourselves from getting hit. We have the Leftovers item in order to increase our recovery over time, since we want to keep Annihilate on the field for as long as possible. And then I gave us the Terrifier in order to make it so that we can't be burned on Annihilate, but also to give us some nice resistances. Next up, we got the Mouse, who is a pretty standard Mousehold set. We have the Beat Up in order to side Beat Up into Annihilate in order to give it its Rage Fist procs, and then we have the Follow Me to redirect damage from Annihilate in case we want to go for Bulk Up for a turn, and we also have the Taunt in order to distract maybe other Pokemon that want to Tailwind or something like that in front of Annihilate in order to increase the speed of their side attacker for the next turn. And we have the Protect in order to save Mousehold, and then we also have the Friend Guard on Mousehold, and we have the Safety Goggles to be able to redirect Spores from Amoonguss and, yeah, avoid Rage Powder so that we can always do the side beat up.
Next up, we have the Mudsdale, and Mudsdale is going to function kind of similar to Annihilate in the sense that we can side beat up from Mousehold into Mudsdale in order to proc its stamina ability a lot, and I think Mudsdale fits better than our Caledon on this team, seeing as we don't want to be running any rain, and Mudsdale can actually beat our Caledon pretty reasonably with the body press set as long as we're getting off the stamina boost for the theoretical Arcaladon. But we have good stab moves like high horsepower in case we can't body press something like a Goldango. And we also have the heavy slam for type coverage, and we have Fissure just in case we get to a point where everything on the field can't really KO each other without getting a crit. We can warrant going for Fissure in some games. And the Assault Vest will give us a special defense boost on the other side so that we're initially very special tanky, and as long as we can get off the mouse hold hits to activate our stamina, we'll be super tank. And lastly, I wasn't quite sure what Pokemon to include on this team, so I just slapped on a Gastrodon in order to give us the Storm Drain. And what Storm Drain does is that we can redirect the water-type single moves that are coming out into Mudsdale into Gastrodon to give us a nice switch in, and we also have some good type coverage in Muddy Water and Earth Power, but we also have the Amnesia to make us even more tanky, and then if we have Clefairy's boost from the Storm Drain with Life Dew, it means that Gastrodon can get out of hand pretty quickly on a lot of slower teams. So yeah, that's the gist of the teams. Let's get into one battle that I have pre-recorded, and then after that we're going to get into some more live battles. Alright, so today's battles are all going to be best of threes, but while I was testing out the team to see what could be made better, I actually battled a team that I think really fits the type of teams that I want to beat, because this opposing team has the Pelipper and our Caledon, but it also has the Goldango and the Amoonguss on it, so let's... Okay, so unfortunately, it seems like I didn't actually save the first game, I must have messed that up, but let's just go into the second game here. I lead Mousehold Annihilate, and they do their same. I think in the first game they led Goldango and Amoonguss. Suffice to say, what happened in the first game was pretty much that I just got Mousehold set up with Annihilate and used the Terra in order to make it so that Goldango wasn't a real threat, because they used Terra Steel on Goldango on turn 1, but since I'm Terra Fire, I resisted the Make It Rain, and it was pretty easy to sweep the game. But this time they brought in Pelipper, so Mausape gets a little bit more complicated. I bring in Altaria, thinking that I'm going to catch a Weather Ball and Shadow Ball into Annihilate, because since I'm Terra Fire, they could have read that from the open team sheet and decided, like, Annihilate is going to attack this turn, so even if it terastallizes, I can at least defeat it. So I bring in Altaria so that their Weather Ball becomes the Terra instead, but they do go for the Make It Rain here instead of Shadow Ball, and they also go for the Hurricane into Annihilate, which is not great for me, as Annihilate gets confused and it hurts itself in confusion, so I don't even get to get the bulk up here with Annihilate. So not a great first turn for us, as Altaria is just kind of a sitting duck. I decide to protect Annihilate to maybe get some healing back on it, as the Make It Rain does pick up Altaria, which means that weather is about to be turned back on. As Pelipper gets off a Tailwind, so now everything is faster, and I think at this point the game is pretty much over. They decide to switch an Incineroar here, which gives me kind of an out, because I follow me as they Weather Ball into Mousehold, and I get the Drain Punch into Incineroar, but the Drain Punch doesn't actually do enough to KO Incineroar, even though I'm at +1, so if I had not hit myself in confusion and gotten off the bulk up that I had wanted in the previous turn, we would have been in a much better spot. But now Assault is going to protect, and we're going to double protect since I'm currently a fire type, and I don't want to get hit by the fake out, and we catch that. Mousehold is going to redirect here, and Pelipper is going to take out Mousehold as I try to get a little bit... Actually, no, I just Rage Fist into the Pelipper. I thought I Drain Punched into Incineroar, but I Rage Fished into the Pelipper just to get rid of it. As now Tailwind is gone, and we have Mudsdale on the field who can maybe bring this back around. Goldango is going to go for the full Terra Steel Make It Rain, but Mudsdale tanks it pretty good since we're Assault Vest. They knock off into Mudsdale, which gets rid of the Assault Vest, body press into Incineroar to try and get rid of it. But now that they have a Amoonguss on the field, even if the Make It Rain didn't crit Annihilate here with their special attack dropped, and I could have Drain Punched into Goldango, I think they're still in a pretty safe spot where they could win the game. But just kind of unfortunate RNG that causes us to go to the Game 3 here. But in the Game 3, you'll see how this team works a lot better. So in the game 3, they lead Pelipper, Goldango again, and I decide that if they're going to get a little lucky here, I actually predict them perhaps setting up Tailwind with Pelipper, and that's a good catch. And they go Terra Steel, Goldango, but I'm deciding not to predict them to Terra Steel, even though they did it all 3 games, which might be a little bit my fault in this game. They do Weather Ball into Mausape, so that gets taken out as I Rage Fist into Goldango to try and get some damage into that. Altari comes back in, and now the weather is being turned off, as Goldango, now with its special attack drop, wants to leave, and Annihilate is going to catch the Hurricane. And even though Hurricane's only 70% accurate right now, it does land both times, but Altaria gets off the Tailwind, which is pretty important. Pelipper gets brought down to 7% because of Rage Fist, but Pelipper is now done. Pelipper decides to protect because we could just Breaking Swipe with Altaria. And with Altaria on the field, I feel pretty safe that they're not going to Spore because I could just Safeguard, but they decide to double protect this turn for whatever reason, perhaps just stalling out a turn of Tailwind. And I'm just being aggressive. I go for the aggressive play again, which is maybe a mistake because I could have just gotten off the Safeguard and been super safe this turn. But they decide not to switch Amoonguss out and instead just go for the Spore, which now I wish I had just gotten off the Safeguard. But everything is still pretty fine as they double protect to get rid of the last turn of Tailwind, and the Rage Fist doesn't connect into Amoonguss. I protect Annihilate to get a little bit more leftovers recovery, as Altaria is going to take the Terra Steel Make It Rain from the Goldango and get up the Safeguard now, as this pretty much shores up the game because I don't think Goldango can be Annihilate anymore. It has to go for the Nasty Plot there, as we saw, but we get the Drain Punch into Goldango, and Amoonguss is just kind of left pollen puffing into Altaria for whatever reason. Incineroar comes back in, but gives us the Defiant boost, as now I can switch in Mudsdale if we wanted to catch a Fake Out, even though we're Covert Cloak. Incineroar crits Annihilate, but at this point the game is 1000% over now that we have Mudsdale and Annihilate both in position to really wreak some havoc on the Pokemon that are left. Because we didn't get the turn prediction correctly, but in this game it definitely worked out a lot more because of the pacing of the match. Okay, the opponent actually has the ideal rain team right now, which we've seen for quite a few videos now. Alright, so I don't know exactly what I lead in this team. I think I just lead Mausape and have Altaria in the back. And then we're also going to have the I don't actually think Gastrodon beats that much on this rain team here. But I don't want to bring Mudsdale, because Mudsdale is just going to get overwhelmed by water unless I can keep Altaria on the field for long enough. Let's bring Mudsdale and we'll see what happens. So they start Goldango and Decidueye, which I think I feel pretty fine with here. The Goldango is Trick Choice specs though. We're not super guaranteed to be faster than Decidueye here, but Goldango is kind of guaranteed to be faster. We could just double protect here in order to make sure that we can see what the Goldango wants to do, so let's do that. Okay, Goldango is just making raining, and what is Decidueye doing? It is triple arrowsing into Annihilate. Alright, so I'm fine with clicking Terrifier and Bulk Up here, and then clicking the side Beat Up into Annihilate. Goldango gets off the Make It Rain, and that crit KOs Mousehold, but I don't think it matters too much. We get the Bulk Up here, and Decidueye goes for the triple arrows, which gets the defense drop here, but because of the defense drop, we actually get an attack increase. So now we can bring in Altaria. Since Goldango is speed dropped, we can go for the Protect and the Tailwind with Altaria. They swap out Pelipper, but Rain does not come up. Tailwind goes out, and Decidueye tries to triple arrows into Annihilate. That doesn't work out for them. And because, as I mentioned, Pelipper has Weather Ball and Hurricane, we're currently pretty safe from Pelipper. It's just that Pelipper might choose to set up the Tailwind here. So I think our safest play is Rage Fist into Pelipper and then to go for the Breaking Swipe. Because that, even though Decidueye is Scrappy, Scrappy doesn't save you from the attack drops from Breaking Swipe. It only saves you from the attack drops from the Intimidates. Now we have Goldango coming back out onto the field, and I think I'm pretty fine with Drain Punching into Decidueye this turn, There's really not much for Altaria to do, so I'm just going to Breaking Swipe. Perhaps to get a little bit more damage here. We're going to Drain Punch Decidueye, and that gives us a nice chunk of health back. As Goldango, make it rains. But we are a fire type, so Annihilape resisted, so Annihilape survives the turn. And last but not least is Basculegion, who might be faster here, but we do have the Tailwind instead. Goldango is the only one that can't afford to protect, so I'm going to Rage Fist into Goldango to get rid of it here. And we're going to swap... but then that gives Basculegion the ability to Last Respects. I think just Breaking Swipe on this last turn is understandable. As we Rage Fist into Goldango, and now this creates a scenario where they kind of have to attack into Altaria, because then we'll just get Tailwind up. So let's Rage Fist into Basculegion, and get off the Tailwind. Okay, they did Last Respects into Altaria, predicting a Protect, but we got the Rage Fist into Basculegion. Okay, so what is the adjustment from their team there, then? Maybe doing Pelipper Basculegion as a lead would be their adjustment, but Basculegion really wants to be in the back for the Last Respects. I think we're going to lead Mausape again, but this time we're going to keep Altaria, because Altaria is good against the rain. And, you know, Mudsdale in back is pretty risky. But then again, the Gastrodon switch in? Actually, yeah, let's keep Mudsdale in the back again, and let's see how the opponent changes their outplay this time. Okay, this time they lead Basculegion. In the last game, we saw that Basculegion was faster than Annihilape, even inside of, or even outside of rain. Going for the bulk up, and then... I accidentally spent too long there. Now we have to bring in Altaria, I think, in order to have any chance of winning this game. I wanted to go for the bulk up there, but I spent too long. I didn't realize the timer was eating up my time. I mean, it's pretty safe for us to protect and then click Breaking Swipe here, I think. So let's go ahead and do that. I think if I was to predict Basculegion coming up front, I would have just led Altaria or swapped in Altaria last turn and gone with the Terra Fire. Okay, Pelipper tries to Hurricane out Annihilape, but we do get the Breaking Swipe at least, which would have been better if we went for Tailwind last turn, but they can afford to just Wave Crash and attack with Hurricane into Pelipper, from Pelipper, but I think what they can't afford to have happen here is I bring in Mudsdale, and we're going to Will-O-Wisp into Basculegion. Okay, Basculegion goes Terra Ghost, but that gives us a defense boost at least. As Hurricane misses Mudsdale, which is great, but we miss the Will-O-Wisp. This is not our battle. Let's try and get rid of Basculegion and Tailwind here. Wave Crash manages to KO Mudsdale even through the boost, and Hurricane comes down to Altaria, but we get a Tailwind as the opponent's Tailwind fades out, which is good. So now we can threaten Terra Fire bulk up, and we can go Breaking Swipe, and even if they do Wave Crash, I don't think it'll do too much damage. Pelipper might set up its own Tailwind here. Yeah, Pelipper sets up its own Tailwind, but I'm pretty okay with that because we can just Breaking Swipe again. It would be really nice if we landed that Will-O-Wisp on the Basculegion, because Basculegion just would not be here right now. But what are you going to do? They try Hurricaning and Wave Crashing into Annihilape. And this is the turn where we have to do this in order to clear the field. Wave Crash comes out. Really need a Hurricane miss here. Oh, but we crit the crit Breaking Swipe. Actually, that's better, I guess, kind of. Now they have one turn of Tailwind here with Hisuian, Decidueye, and Overquill. And I think the only thing that makes sense for them to do is they could just Liquidation. They could double into Annihilape. We have one defense boost. I don't know how much that defense boost is going to save us, though. Let's go for the Protect and Tailwind, I think, here. They crunch into Altaria, and Altaria doesn't take it, unfortunately. And we would have lived the triple arrows, which is super unfortunate.
Let's Drain Punch into Overquill since Overquill. Oh, and then crit us with the Crunch. Yeah, that was just not our game to win. Not only did I mess up the start, but they crit us right there. So let's go on to game 3 and see if I can fix my mistakes. Let's just start Annihilate Altaria here, and then we'll have Mousehold in back and Mudsdale again. They lead Pelipper Basket Legion, which I am okay with. And let's stall a turn by going for Protect, and let's Protect and Tailwind here. They protect Basket Legion, which makes sense, and I think we're just going to trade Tailwind. We could do the thing that we did previously, where we try to, like, sack Mudsdale. However, I think I'm just going to Terrafire and Rage Fist into the Basket Legion, and then try and get the Breaking Swipe. Okay, well, they fall and just Wave Crash into Annihilate, which I think means that we lose the game here. So yeah, I think I definitely messed that game up. The second game, I think, just tilted me too hard, but sometimes you just get tilted. I think what I should have done in the third game is I should have had Gastrodon instead of Mudsdale in the back, because what Gastrodon will allow me to do is to take that one turn where they Wave Crash and then Terra Fire, and then get rid of the Basque Legion. And then I think we're, like, pretty much home free, because, yeah, Pelipper has Water Weather Ball back, but we have Gastrodon on the field now, and Gastrodon can help us deal with a lot of other things, and we could just bring Altaria back. Okay, here we have a Fire Water Grass Core, and they have Whimsicott, which gives them speed control, and what is our way around Whimsicott? Because the main things that beat Altaria are Baxcalibur and Primarina with Moonblast. However, I don't think Baxcalibur should ever come into Mausape, and Primarina, we can ignore the single target with on the Moonblast. Let's go Mausape, and then have Altaria in the back, and then lastly, we will have Gastrodon. Okay, they start Rillaboom Volcarona. So Volcarona might Quiver Dance here. I could really see them faking out Mousehold here. But if they decide to fake out Mousehold, I'm okay with protecting and bulk upping with Annihilate. They do fake out into Mousehold, and Volcarona does go for the Quiver Dance. They do have Heat Wave, but if they Heat Wave, then we get the ability to... We can just go Terra Fire, and the Volcarona can't really touch us. So let's go Terra Fire into... I want to go for another bulk up, but I don't think another bulk up really benefits me. Let's just go for the Rage Fist and let's see what happens. They Grassy Glide and Mousehold, but that doesn't KO, as they do go for the Heat Wave, and that takes out Mousehold. But now Annihilate has a +1 stack, and that almost takes out Volcarona. But now we can bring in Altaria, and we can afford to get up a Tailwind on this turn. I don't really care too much about Rillaboom, so I'm going to go for the Rage Fist into Volcarona. Volcarona isn't anything funky, right? It's just Terra Dragon, okay. Go for Bug Buzz into Altaria, which doesn't chip damage. We get the Tailwind, and that allows us to take out Volcarona. Where was that crit last turn? They swap into Primarina, and do they have Whimsicott in the back? Okay, no, they just have Rillaboom again. So we can't Storm Drain the Primarina's Hyper Voice, but we can just Will-O-Wisp into the Rillaboom, and we are fast. I kind of want to take the Fake Out just to see how much the Hyper Voice does, but I think that sounds insane. But if they manage to KO Altaria this turn, then things are going to be bad because we have Gastrodon in the back, and then it's just Annihilate versus the world. We're going to Will-O-Wisp into Rillaboom, and we're going to protect Annihilate. I think the obvious play here is just to protect Annihilate so that we can avoid being faked out by the Rillaboom. Yeah, they fake out into Annihilate, and what do they do? Primarina. They Hyper Voice. Okay. Let's go for the Breaking Swipe and the Rage Fist in Primarina, and hopefully the Rage Fist KOs. Because it's only a 100 base power move right now, but Primarina is pretty physically weak. Primarina goes for the Protect, but what does Rillaboom do? Does Rillaboom give us another stack here? Now, Rillaboom U-turns into Annihilate and brings out Baxcalibur. Okay. But, okay, they have Ice Shard on Baxcalibur, so I'm fine swapping in Gastrodon here, and then going for the Rage Fist into Primarina. And then, even if they switch in Rillaboom, that gets rid of their Fake Outs. Let's do that. Rage Fist into Primarina, and that takes out 100% of its health, and they Icicle Spear into Gastrodon instead. Gastrodon gets off the Citrus Berry, and the opponent understands that the battle is kind of over at this point.
Okay, what is their change up here? I guess it would be to bring their own Annihilate, but they don't... Other than the loaded dice Excalibur, they don't really have a way to activate that. And Annihilate beats Excalibur, kind of. I think we do Mousehold, Annihilate, Altaria, and Gastrodon again. And hopefully we don't get unlucky in the second game, because with this team I've been getting super unlucky in the second game the entire time. Okay, this time they bring in Primarina, but we aren't terrestrialized into a fire type yet with Annihilate. I guess they should follow me, because they could just Moonblast with Primarina. And I'm kind of counting on... If Volcarona attacks, though, it's going to be bad. Let's just taunt Volcarona, and then protect with Annihilate. Volcarona does try to go for the Quiver Dance, but they go for the Perish Song instead. Okay. Well, let's beat up, and we saw Annihilate is... Actually, we don't know the speed tiers necessarily between Annihilate and Primarina. However, I would be willing to bet that Primarina is faster. So let's get our side procs and then try and Rage Fist the Primarina. We side beat up into Annihilate, and as long as Volcarona doesn't Heat Wave burn us, yeah, we're good to take out Rillaboom here. Alright. Good take, good take. It also puts more pressure on Volcarona to switch. They bring back in Primarina, and could make the move to bring in... Because we need to switch out Annihilate at some point, not so much Mousehold. Mousehold has kinda done its job. Especially since we've gotten rid of Rillaboom. This might be a good Gastrodon endgame here. I think I'm gonna follow me and Rage Fist into Primarina. Okay, Primarina protects. And they go for the Heat Wave again. No burns, which is good. So they can't switch out both Primarina and Volcarona since they only have one Pokemon in the back. I'm gonna make a crazy play here since I'm up a game. I'm going to swap in Gastrodon and then Rage Fist into Primarina. Okay, they swap in Excalibur. We Rage Fist Primarina, and that knocks Primarina out, which I think is a pretty good trade at this point, even if Annihilate gets knocked out. Because we can use Mousehold here to Friend Guard Gastrodon, and... but they might Ice Shard with Excalibur and then get off the Quiver Dance with Volcarona. Okay, this is a tricky one now. Let's Muddy Water and taunt Volcarona. Okay, they use their Terra Dragon, and yeah, alright, this game goes downhill now. We're gonna Terra Fairy with Altaria. They're going to Quiver Dance again. We Breaking Swipe for as much damage as we can get. But we do get the burn immediately, which is so annoying. I think crit the Icicle Spear. They're Breaking Swiping, but the Excalibur doesn't get much use out of the Icicle Crashes, so we get a crit on it at least, and a decrease in accuracy. But Volcarona is currently ×2, so it's probably just going to Heat Wave into Gastrodon and get rid of it. I think I have to count on the Earth Power crit, and I'll just go for Will-O-Wisp in the Volcarona. Yeah, alright, Heat Wave ends the game there. How does Excalibur get a crit? It gets a crit Icicle Spear. Yeah, alright. Okay, to counter what happened last game, let's do Mausape, and then Altaria, and then Gastrodon in the back. But this time, I'm going to be less afraid of Primarina, which I really caught me off guard last time, because I think it was pretty dumb to assume that the Primarina was their most important piece, like I think it was Volcarona. This time, let's bulk up, and then let's Terrestrialize and Rage Fist into the Primarina. It seems like the Primarina didn't protect, and they Heat Waved instead with Volcarona. So yeah, we get to take out Primarina this time, and now we are in a much better position. They bring in Excalibur, but I'm not too afraid of Excalibur at this point. So let's Rage Fist into Volcarona and follow me with Mousehold. Excalibur protects, which is good, but that's not the one that we were afraid of this turn, as Volcarona tries to go for the Quiver Dance, but with the Rage Fist picking up the KO this time. Now they only have Whimsicott in the back, and I don't think Whimsicott... Oh, actually, they have Encore. They could Encore us into Rage Fist here. Let's follow me. We take the Moonblast. Excalibur uses the Glaive Rush, but because the Glaive Rush is going to take double damage, even if Rage Fist wasn't going to previously KO it. And here we're good. I feel like we haven't had a good game that's outside of Mausape, though. Like, I showed that last game where Mudsdale was kind of useful, and I know the game where I should have made good use of Gastrodon was in the last set, but I feel like these two haven't had a great chance to shine, so I'm going to try another game, and if that game ends up only being Mausape, then we're just going to go back to the team preview here. So yeah, that was the Mudsdale Mausape team. I think it could still use some work. I'm a little short on time today, if you couldn't guess. But I think, if anything, Altario was actually best represented on this team today, as it gave us a lot of work inside of Rain. And I think this team is definitely the result of me just not having enough time to think this team out. So in the future, I'm going to try and take a lot more time to work on an actual team, because I think this team idea can be fleshed out a lot better, but this is just where I'm going to have to leave it for today. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked it, maybe consider leaving a like on the video, and even consider subscribing, because both of those things help me out an absolute ton. And I will see you in the next one. Thank you very much.